I know that budgets are oftentimes seen as overwhelming or hard to stick to, but that doesn't have to be the case. Today, I'm going to take you through my 15-minute weekly budget routine. Okay, so to get started with this weekly budget routine, the first thing you need to do is pick a day of the week that works for you, that you can look forward to every week to do your weekly budget routine. My preferred day of the week is Wednesday because it's right in the middle of the week and I get time to look ahead at the weekend, and it's also not payday. I don't like to do this routine on payday. So choose the day of the week that works for you and gather your supplies. So since this is a simple routine and it's going to take 15 minutes max, you don't need many supplies. The only thing that I have is my laptop. Since I'm sitting outside, I have my planner, I have my journal, and a pen. So once I have all my supplies together, I put on some good music, like some jazz or some lo-fi music, something that's going to tell my brain that I need to focus for the next couple of minutes, and then I get started. Step one is to track any expenses that I may have missed or just catch up on my budget in general. So if I went to get gas yesterday and I haven't put it in the budget yet, I go ahead and enter that now. I make sure I don't have any overspent categories, and if I do, I move money around to cover those expenses, and I basically just make sure my budget looks really pretty because I love a pretty budget. This step doesn't take me too long because I look at my budget multiple times throughout the week, and then of course before I spend any money, I pull up my budget on my phone to make sure that there's money in the category that I'm about to use. So this takes 1 to 2 minutes for me usually because there's only a couple of transactions that I need to enter. So step 2 is to reconcile my bank account. So during this step, I just open up my bank's website and make sure each of the accounts has the amount of money that I'm expecting in there and make sure nothing looks crazy or out of place. So one time saving tip that I have for this step is to open up your bank websites on your phone because the apps seem to load faster and already be logged in, as opposed to going on the website and having to put in your credentials and navigate the bank's website. Once I get logged into the accounts, it takes about 5 to 10 seconds per account. I make sure the balance that it shows at the top of the bank account is the balance that I show in my budget. And if all looks well, then I move on to the next one. This takes about 2 to 3 minutes as well, just going through each of the accounts. And once I make sure that everything matches, I just click the reconcile button in YNAB and I move on. If there are any discrepancies, I figure out what happened and I make a note of it if it's going to take some time to resolve, and then I move on to the next account and I'll resolve those issues tomorrow, or if it's something simple, I resolve it immediately. Okay, so moving on, the next step is when I take out my planner and I look ahead to see what's coming up and make sure I have money to fund each of those activities. So since I do my weekly budget routine on Wednesday, I look towards the end of the week and then I see what's coming up that weekend and the beginning of the next week. So this is just a quick glance to make sure I haven't forgotten about any plans, also to make sure that any reservations that I need have been confirmed, and make sure that there's money in the category for each of the things that I have coming up. Most of the time I don't have much going on, but if I have like a big trip coming up, I make sure everything is in order. I have my itinerary and all of that. So on weeks that I don't have anything going on, this takes a couple of minutes. On weeks like when I was going to Vegas, it took me a bit of time because I wanted to make sure I had everything in order and I was prepared for my trip. So this is just a nice way to stay on top of all of my plans. Once I've done that, I move on to the next step, which is to open any mail that I haven't opened and to pay any miscellaneous bills that I have going on. So my planner has this little pocket, and when I open mail throughout the week, if there's anything that catches my attention that I need to remember or anything that I need to pay, I slip it right here in this little pocket so I can see that I have 2 bills that I need to pay, and then I also have an RSVP to a wedding that I need to send off. So I will go ahead and pay these 2 bills during this step and don't have to find a stamp because the card already has a stamp. So I'll go ahead and send this off as well, and that will be off my plate, and my little planner folder is going to be empty. I don't like to carry around too many bills inside my planner, so I like to get those paid as soon as possible. Now, if it's a bill that is due like way off, I may wait a little while, but I just don't like to have a lot of papers hanging out of my planner. So I'm gonna get that taken care of, and then we'll move to the next step. Moving on to the last step, I'm going to pull out my journal and write down any thoughts that I had while I was going through this weekly budget routine, or write down any notes that I have for myself that I need to remember, anything that I need to jot down, any feelings that came up and need to be worked out, anything like that. And this takes about 5 minutes because usually I know what's coming up and I don't have any hard feelings about anything, but I like to take a few minutes to just write down my thoughts and anything that I need to remember after I go through the budget routine. And that takes about 15 minutes and wraps up my weekly budget routine. As you just saw, I can go through my budget, make sure everything is in order in 15 minutes or less. I want to note that this is not the only time that I look at my budget throughout the week. I put in my transactions most of the time as they happen, but some of them are fall through the cracks or whatever the case may be. And then I also have a separate payday routine, which I will put on the screen in just a second. But this weekly budget routine is what makes my budget run like a well-oiled machine. It helps me to keep everything into perspective, keep everything organized, pay those bills on time, and make sure that I'm not being scammed and just not realizing it, because I do reconcile my bank accounts weekly. Now I want to hear from you. Do you currently have a weekly budget routine, or are you going to start using this weekly budget routine? Let me know down below. That's all for this video. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and click the link on your screen right now for more Well Balanced Wallet content. See you there.